Dajahao, my name is Garrick, and welcome back to Taiwan Lao Wai, and holy Christ, it is cold today. I swear, you would not think winters would get too cold in Taiwan, considering it's like at the same latitude as Florida. But for some reason, whenever it hits me with a day like today, I feel like I'm gonna die. It's not a good day to be out and about, but we are outing and abouting anyway, because I'm crazy like that. Well, it doesn't help that it is being ridiculously windy and it is cutting through this lightweight jacket something fierce. Gah! It's not even that cold today. It's like 16 degrees Celsius. That's nothing, but for some reason, I am just too used to how hot it gets here. I am never equipped for how cold it gets. Well, you'll have to excuse me, my voice is a little raspy because I just woke up. Let me drink some water real quick. Okay, it's a little easier being in direct sunlight. That does help a little bit. Anyways, this is actually the first video I am filming in the new year, so happy 2026, everybody. I hope it's been going better than last year so far. Now, it was actually pretty rainy and drizzly on New Year's Eve itself, so I was not able to celebrate as much as I would have maybe liked. So we're saving our New Year's celebration for today instead. What can I say? Sometimes being an adult is saving your holiday celebrations not for the day of, but for the closest day when you have actual available time. Yes, we're getting a bus to head to Taipei, and we are actually heading to a part of the city that is further afield than I think I've ever been there. We are heading super far east, like to the eastmost part of the city before it fades into the surrounding territories. I believe the place is called Nangang District, and it's like this last little stretch of land at the east of Taipei, bleeding into the mountains. And the reason we are going there is we are gonna get some barbecue. That's right, it has been way too long since we got ourselves a good old plate of barbecue here. You may recall I made a video about my first experience with Texas barbecue at a place called Ed's Diner, and it was an incredible time. I will link that video in the description. I really suggest you check it out. I sort of had my mind blown by how good it was. But the question remains, is that the best barbecue that it can be? Or can we go even higher? Since then, I have checked out one other barbecue place called Baba Kevin's, and that was also really good. I should probably go back there and make a video for that place as well someday. But today we're going a bit further afield to a place called Bogart's Smokehouse. From the looks of it, this place specializes in St. Louis-style barbecue, which, you know, I don't know how different that is from Texas barbecue. I imagine they're pretty similar. They're probably like a few different nuances in the kinds of spices and sauces they use. But I'll let other folks explain those in the comments. I'm not here to do, like, cultural anthropology excavation on the differences between them. I'm here to feast! So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna hop on a train, we're gonna head into the furthest reaches of Taipei, and we are gonna have ourselves a gut-busting lunch. And hopefully we're gonna do it without freezing to death in this lovely sunny weather we're having right now. Ah, Taiwan winters, how I adore you. Alright, enough nonsense from me. We're almost at the train station. See you in Taipei. Okay, Nangang District, here we are. I like the look of this place. It is a little more spread out and a bit more scenic than city center, I would say. Most of Taipei is over that way in the west, so it probably gets a lot more cluttered as we head in that direction, but we are heading in this direction. Also, it is getting warmer now that the sun is out properly, thank God. I have a tendency to get sick in cold weather, and I do not want the sniffles or the coffee or the sore throat to ruin what's sure to be an incredible lunch. If I'm honest, me getting sick out of nowhere actually did ruin a video I was trying to make earlier this year, or I guess late last year. It's 2026 now. But yeah, if you remember the German Christmas market I visited in Taipei way back when, this year they had a stop in my city, Taoyuan, so I went to check that out. Unfortunately, the weather was so cold that weekend that I came down with some sort of big-ass cold. So I spent a lot of the time there coughing and sneezing and just generally not having a good time and not really being able to do any sort of commentary, which is a shame because the food I ate there was like really damn good. Here, I'll put in a little slideshow of it here. Here's what I ate at the German Christmas market in 2025. Boop. That all looks delicious. You'll excuse me, I think it's okay to take my hood off now. Whew, thank goodness for the sun. The point is, I'm trying very hard not to get sick right now, and luckily the weather has now gotten pretty nice, so I don't think I'm in too much danger, but I will keep my wits about me. Tell you what though, I bet some big, sticky, finger-licking meat in my belly will warm me right up, so let's get going. We're almost there. That's one nice thing about Bogart's already. It's like a 10-minute walk away from the Nangang train station. Not even 10 minutes, maybe closer to 8 minutes. So all you gotta do is take the train here, take a little bit of a walk, and then there is hot, tasty, lip-smacking barbecue ready for your consumption. As a matter of fact, I think I might already see it on the upcoming street corner. Give me a second. Yes, okay, you see that orange and black sign we're coming up on now? That says BBQ, baby. We're making good time as well. The restaurant opens at 11:30 and we're just about 12:40 now, so hopefully we should get in before anything is sold out. Oh, hello, that's funny. They've got this little sign telling you exactly where you should be looking. My goodness. Okay, yeah, welcome to Bogart's. I love the look of this place already. It also does look pretty crowded in there. I don't know how much talking I'll be able to do inside. We will see. We'll take it as it comes, yeah? This is gonna be so good. I can't wait. See you inside.
1 hour later.
Oh my gosh, I got too much food. Alright, this is gonna be a weird one to talk about because I was not able to get any video footage in there at all. There are big signs all around the restaurant saying no photography, no live streaming, no recording. And I'm guessing it's because it's a very open-air communal kind of restaurant. Like, it's these big, long tables all throughout the room and you sit with a bunch of strangers and you eat your barbecue alongside them, basically. So, you know, if you're pulling out your cameras everywhere and taking videos and photos, you're going to be taking a lot of videos and photos of strangers who might not want to be videoed and photographed. So it's totally fair they don't want you doing that, but it does make it a bit hard for me to put something on video. So in the end, I just snapped a few pictures of my food itself and kept it at that. And I think that's probably going to be okay. It's a shame I couldn't show you the whole room, though, because it is a very beautiful interior this restaurant has. It's got like brickwork and stonework on the walls. It has all these DIY craft projects hanging from the ceiling. If you're at all familiar with the barbecue chain restaurant Famous Dave's in America, it's exactly that vibe, but a bit more Art Deco, I would say. And I love Famous Dave's, so that was right up my alley. As a matter of fact, I think this restaurant might have shown me that Famous Dave's is specifically a St. Louis style barbecue joint because the kind of food I got here was exactly the kind of food I would get at Famous Dave's. It's that style of barbecue, which is pretty close to Texas barbecue like I expected, but the sides are built a bit differently. The brisket is cut in slices instead of big slabs. There's a bigger focus on sandwiches and bread and that sort of thing. I don't know. I'm not a barbecue historian, clearly, but it was interesting to see those nuances between such similar meals I've had. But y'all are gonna have to excuse me if I trundle on home and crash for a few hours before I give you the full rundown. I'm in food coma mode right now, so my thoughts are not thinking correctly and my words are not wording correctly. Oh, God, that was delicious, though. That was... And yes, I am aware I seriously need a haircut at this point. It's becoming a problem. Alright, I'm gonna head back home, see you in a few hours to tell you about this delicious feast.
Many hours later.
Ooh, holy moly, I am stuffed. that. Something about delicious food, it really just knocks you flat on your belly sometimes. Also, yes, hello, welcome to my bed. I think, this is the first time I've brought you over here with this camera angle. I should bring you here more often. It is very relaxing just lying down on here. Anyways, it's been a few hours. I am still quite full, which this is just alright with me. I feel like when you go and get barbecue like this, it has to be like your only meal of the day, and you load up so much that you don't need to eat anything else for another 24 hours. And I'm well on my way there at this point, so I consider that a success. Anyway, Bogart's, yeah. So the way this restaurant works, you head in through the door and there's a big line. You go down to the counter to order, and then you turn around and sit down at one of the long tables wherever there is an open spot, and they bring you your food in literally 2 minutes. I'm not even joking, that's how fast it took. I don't know if that's normal for barbecue, but it definitely seems like they've got, big batches of all their stuff cooking and marinating and macerating back there, so they're ready to just chop up a portion size and serve it whenever they're ready to, whenever they need to. And keep in mind, this was like right dead in the middle of the lunch rush, so it wasn't like the restaurant was empty or anything. It was pretty packed to the gills when I showed up, and they still got me my ridiculously large order of food in 2 minutes or less. So whatever system they're using, it's clearly working. Kudos. For what it's worth, the owner was American as well. I don't know if he came from St. Louis or that area specifically, but it definitely seemed like he knew his stuff and he was bringing the authentic barbecue experience to this little spot of Taipei. Also, don't mind my heater going haywire in the back, it does that sometimes. Every once in a while it has to scream for a minute or two. I think it does that when it's like really cold outside and it's really working to bring my room up to temperature. I don't know. I don't know the inner workings of that technology, but it has not exploded on me yet, so I'm gonna continue trusting it for now. Regardless, food. So Bogart's is a pretty old school kind of barbecue institution. It has, a few different options for meats, a few different options for sides, and that's pretty much it. It's not an extensive menu. On the bright side, that makes it easy to get a sample of almost everything that looks delicious, so there's that. In my case, I went for a half rack of ribs, and I went for a double meat plate, which was 1/2 brisket and 1/2 brisket burnt ends. Both of those came with 2 sides, so overall I was able to try 3 meats, 4 sides, and 1 drink. Just in my one lunch experience here. And that's like 60-70% of the menu right there, so I think I did a good job. The only items I didn't get were the pulled pork, the cranberry cayenne chicken, and I think the potato salad. I also didn't get any sandwiches, I just got the meat as is. Though they did come, as you can see on the pictures, they did come on these little bread plates to soak up all the sauce, so I suppose I sorta got that experience in a way. That said, when I come back here, and I will come back here because it was freaking delicious, I do want to try those other offerings that I missed the first time, just to see how they stack up. As for what I got though, frickin' god, that was good. The ribs were extremely tender, and they were sweet and salty and tangy and lip smacky. I know people have differences of opinion whether they like their ribs dry rubbed or slathered in barbecue sauce. Me personally, I prefer the latter, so these were right up my alley. They had just lacquered these bad boys in this sticky, zesty, tangy, sweet goodness, and I could not stop eating. I honestly would come back here just to get a full rack of these, that's how good they were. Maybe they're not quite as fall off the bone tender as the ribs I got at Ed's Diner, but, I'm nitpicking at this point. I'm comparing the A++ to the A+. But you know me, ribs are one of my favorite food in existence, so I'm gonna nitpick, but I'm also gonna devour them every single time, because even a rib that is not the exceptional best of the best is still gonna be like one of the best foods I've ever eaten, and these definitely qualified. I loved them. Now, the brisket was a lot more interesting to me because, as you can see from my pictures, they do St. Louis brisket pretty differently than they do Texas brisket. When you get brisket in Texas, at least I assume so from my time at Ed's Diner, they give you like a big slab of it, sort of like a
a stick of it with the fatty part and the lean part connected by that web of fat in the middle. In this case, it was much more of like a shaved beef style with very thin slices of, I think it was the lean cut, but I'm not entirely sure. And that changes the experience because, with the big Texas brisket, not only are you cutting through a pretty substantial piece of meat to eat it, you've also got all that bark on the outside, the crackly, textured, sweet, sticky, tangy glaze and seasoning that they put on the outside, which helps perfume the meat as well as you're eating it. But in this style, they just serve you the meat itself, and I think the intent is you supplement with all the various barbecue sauces they had on the table, which I very happily did. There was a pretty traditional sweet and sticky one, there was a one with a bit of kick and spice to it, there was a vinegar one called, Mississippi Mud, something like that, which was funny because it was the least muddy sauce in that lineup. It was, clear and vinegary. And then there was the California Sweet, which I think is a lot more mustard-based than the others. And they were all really good. I think my favorite was the devil one, I think that's what it's called. The one with the kick of heat to it, I think that added a lot, but I would happily douse a brisket sandwich or a brisket plate in any of those if I came back. Now the burnt ends, on the other hand, that's where all the bark ended up, because those are like the trimmings of the brisket that don't go into the clean beef you can shave. So that's where you get like the outside, the bark, the scraps that are a bit crunchier and got a bit, crispy and crackly from the heat and, all the time it's been smoking. I'm pretty sure that was also the fattier side of the brisket as opposed to the lean, but again, not a barbecue expert, so I'm not sure. Point is, it was much more reminiscent of the brisket I ate at Ed's Diner, this thick, very crispy, crackly piece of meat that sort of melts in your mouth as you eat it with all this intense, punchy sauce. I'm not gonna lie, I sort of had to lean back and go, whoa, the first time I tasted it. It was divine. That said, much like Texas brisket, you do want to eat it while it's still hot, because if it starts to go cold, then the fat starts congealing as opposed to being, gelatinous and easily slurped down, and that's nowhere near as pleasant. Now, the sides were a bit more of a mixed bag. My favorite were the fire and ice pickles because, they had that intense vinegary punch. They had that, little bit of spice to them. I am a fan of pickles that are just packed with flavor, and this had all, the tangy, vinegary, slightly sour, slightly spicy, slightly sweet, very salty, umami, It was like all the good flavors in one in the space of the pickles, so, full points for that. I also liked the baked beans a lot. I liked that they weren't too sweet, they were more smoky and spicy than anything, and they had these, little chunks of meat laced throughout. I'm not sure if it was the brisket or the pulled pork or something else, but whatever it was, I like that it focused on that smoky spiciness. Coleslaw was alright. It's, a very basic coleslaw, not my favorite thing in the world, but it was okay. Unfortunately, the mac and cheese was the only real disappointment. I did not get as much flavor out of it as I wanted. It wasn't as salty as I wanted, I didn't get enough of the cheese, the sauce itself was a little too loose for my liking. I like my mac a little closer clumped together so you can eat big bites of it. I swear, it is so hard to find a good mac and cheese anywhere in Taipei, or in Taiwan in general. I think the only really standout one I've had is, of course, at Ed's Diner, at that last barbecue place I went to. That mac and cheese was spectacular. So maybe I was expecting a little more from this place as well, and, a little let down. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't my favorite thing. But hey, that's one slight disappointment out of a buffet of deliciousness, so can't complain too much. I also got myself this interesting drink that I've never really seen before. It was a bitters drink, but I'm not actually sure if it was alcoholic. I couldn't taste any booze in it. But it's, bitters mixed with lemon and lime soda, and it sort of tasted like a fancy Sprite as I was drinking it. And, I don't know if that was the intention, but it felt right for this kind of place. It's still sort of low down and, working class. With those, soda-y flavors, but a bit more elevated and a bit more, this is what it should be, I'm not explaining myself well, am I? It was good. It tasted like Sprite should be. I think the food's still affecting my vocabulary functions. My apologies. The point is, this was a fantastic lunch, and while I'm sad I couldn't really get any video footage of it, I absolutely recommend you visit Bogart's if you're ever visiting Taipei. Especially if you're from St. Louis or, from any barbecue area, I think it'll give you a very good taste of home. And it's not too pricey either. Those 2 big plates I got plus the drink was 1,220 NTD, which I think is very reasonable for how much food I got and how delicious it was. That said, if you do want to try absolutely everything, bring a friend, get a bunch of stuff to share. I think it'll be a very fun experience. Maybe I should do like a barbecue ranking tier list at some point. Like, go to literally all the barbecue places in Taiwan that I can find and, put them on a list which are the absolute best of the best that you need to check out. That could be a fun thing to do. We'll see. For now, though, I'm gonna call it quits. I'm going to enjoy the rest of my day, and I will see you with whatever crazy adventure I come up with whatever I cook up next. That's the words, that's what I meant to say, yeah. Once again, thank you for joining me at Taiwan Lao Wai. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, smash the bell, share with your friends, all that good stuff. And as always, I'll see you next time. 再见. Bye-bye.